one thing I forgot to tell you is, this is what I just discussed with you about the progress of the mass. It's back in 2008, when we were testing the ADH cytokines. We wrote these cytokines on the ORAT. So originally this test was for the hair growth. But the interesting part is, not only the hair begin to grow out on this ORAT, this ORAT also become more and more active. At that time, we do a very quick literature search to try to explain the phenomena. So what we got is a phenomenon called heterochronic parabiosis. So what happened is, you connect an old rat with a young rat and let them share the circulation. So after you share circulation, merely in 5 days, if you do a biopsy of the old rat, you can see the tissue. You can see the tissues of the brain and liver and things like that of the old rat. After 5 days, already become younger. Okay. So I know everybody is very skeptical about this, but if I tell you the background about this, this experiment was performed by Dr. Alexis Carrel, okay, back in 1904 at University of Chicago. That's where I was trained. And this is the guy who invented the vascular anastomosis, and he's the great master of the cardiovascular surgery and the transplant surgery. And he's also awarded the 1992 Nobel Prize in medicine and the physiology. Alexis Carrel is also the guy who proposed to make assumptions that cells can be immortal. But because of this background, so we observed a phenomenon which is a systemic rejuvenation by a transdermal heterochronic parabiotic technique. The issue is this is probably more familiar to most of you, is Dr. Hayflick. He's the guy who tells people that the fibroblasts can divide only 50 times. And because Carrel's experiment was not perfectly executed, so it was being criticized. And another thing is that for some personal political reasons, and his work cannot be done clinically, so it was become obsolete. However, in 2005, because of the aging population, so his work was re-examined by a group of scientists in Stanford, in California, Stanford. So this is Dr. Randall and Dr. Comboy and sisters. And these people are beginning to take charge of the second generation of heterochronic parabiosis. So they redo the Carrel's experiment, and you can see that in 5 days, you can see all this tissue, histologically, all the tissue become younger. But this is probably the only evidence I'm aware of in terms of in vivo rejuvenation of the live tissue. But at that time, because of 2012, the Nobel Prize was given to the stem cells. So everybody only focusing on the stem cells. And not so much people want to study other phenomena. Another interesting piece of information came out in 2016. So Stanford group, they observe a phenomena that because before this experiment, everybody only aware of that in the young blood, you do have some very useful trophic factors. But in this experiment, they find out that in the old blood, actually it's very toxic for the body. So at this time, we realized that what we were doing with the stem cell transplant or stem cell cytokines, we are doing something like this. Basically, we took out the cells and we do the culture and put it back. But we are putting it back into a dirty environment, which is toxic to the cells. So it's not going to be working very well. And this also partially explains why stem cell therapies up to date is not really working at its best, okay? And so this is similar to that you have a tank of fish in the clean blood when you are young. However, when you get older, the water becomes dirty. And if you put in a lot of the small fish or young fish, it's not going to survive very well. So instead of the stem cell transplant, we begin to spend a lot of time in in terms of how do we clean up the toxin in the body and in the same time using trophic factors and to activate the resident stem cells. In terms of detoxification, it's very not difficult. There are a lot of ways you can do it. You can use a chelation therapy or those colon hydrotherapy. This is called technique called DFPP, and this you can do it in the hospital. However, we find the most effective way, if you do a little bit calculation, the easiest way is just phlebotomy. You just donate your blood, okay? And you can take out about 250 cc of blood in the average Asian female, and you can take out about 500 cc of blood in the average Asian man. So the next thing, the hard part is actually where can you get the young plasma, which is rich in trophic factors. And there are a couple of approaches. So this is the approach taken by Dr. Raymond back in 1992. This is a study using the human growth hormone. So he supplemented the deficient human growth hormone and to get some result. And this is another approach. You can also look at the trophic factors using the growth curve. And recent data comes out that actually you do a proteome analysis, you can see some of the proteome actually reduces linearly with age. However, some others reduce very rapidly after the birth. So this is the technique we came out. After we do about a couple hundred of the analysis and the proteome analysis. So our approach now is we try to get some human albumin from young donors. We can custom order from some big pharmaceutical company. And after we get those, we add in some of the growth factors and the cytokines available through the FDA. So with the recent release of the Taiwan's cell therapy regulations, and we have more weapons to synthesize this type of plasma. So level of evidence. This is the original level of evidence, which was done by a Japanese company. It shows the effect of the cytokines obtained from placenta tissue on the liver function. And these are the effect of the mesenchymal stem cell transplants done by Dr. Hale in Miami. The reason I put in the mesenchymal stem cell transplant into this category is because mesenchymal stem cells, based on the Dr. Edwin Kaplan, mesenchymal stem cell is really not a stem cell. Again, we can spend hours discuss about that if we have time. So these are the clinical data. Basically, if you're doing this type of therapy, you can get about 15% effect and reverse the physical function. And these are the effect of this type of therapy on the immune functions, which is hot topics during this coronavirus age. So another thing which is very interesting is about this disease, Alzheimer. So you are aware of this, and we also know there is no medicine for it. This experiment was done by a company called Grifols. So the concept is that you use the albumin, you inject it into the human body. The albumin acting like a sponge was sucking all these bad proteins, and after you do the phlebotomy, you can remove these toxic amyloid plaques, which cause amyloid plaques. These are the SOP. And the clinical result is that this is the control group. Without therapy, you can see the MMSE score of these Alzheimer patients reduce very quickly. But if you do a plasma exchange on a biweekly basis, the progression of the Alzheimer disease can be slowed down by 70%, 70%. So, I'm sorry, this one is China. Basically what it says is that in 2030, the stem cell therapy is going to be very, very big. It's more than 5 trillion NT. But what we see is that we have yet to have a very standardized cell therapy program. So what we trying to do now is using the concept of the Toyota, and we're creating fully automated stem cell culture machine. And by doing this, we can get we already have the prototype done and displayed in the China International Expo back in August. So this is what we are doing now with the stem cell and the cytokine. So you can do you can basically just put in the order of these for different type of stem cell and the cytokines by these machines. So this is from the nature. Okay, basically, eventually you're going to put in a coin from a vending machine. You're going to get whatever type of stem cell you want. Of course, you get it from the heart, for the brain, for the spine, and you can also for the face. And I guess this is the reason I'm talking about this technique in this conference. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell everybody is facial aging is caused by gravity and chronic inflammation. We all know about that. And we also know we have so many weapons in our hand. We have surgery, we have ADAC, and Botox, stress, fillers, energy device, 3D mask, and young plasma in our tool. And what can we do as a facial plastic surgeon? You can get involved with many designs about these devices. And you can also work on different type of material, and like hyaluronic acid and large molecules, and to facilitate these technologies. And this is a technique used by many people. They are trying to using the albumin as a carrier to add in different type of growth factors slowly to create a slow release type of plasma. So we also are trying to work on setting up equipment and which you can using isolated organ. We call it organ-specific heterochronic parabiosis, and hopefully that can rejuvenate the organ outside of the body. The last thing I want to tell you about is this technology called blockchain. This is like the early stage of the internet. The blockchain technology, most of people only aware of that as a Bitcoin, okay? But instead of the Bitcoin, we are trying to create an environment called for the face. So this is my teacher back in University of Chicago. He always say, when you are doing something, people always think it's impossible. Then after a while, you are trying to begin to get some result. People are skeptical, and when it become popular, and everybody will be saying that it's obvious. Okay, so I think we are in the second stage. Yeah. So one more thing. So we are a research and development company. So this is when I was sitting in the airplane, I was very concerned about this coronavirus because you can see all these leaks from the side. Okay. So we have problems with the surgical mask. Availability is a problem now. And when you're wearing, the mask easily displays. And you have leakage from the side. And you also create a dead space. So we're using a 3D technology, quickly design a mask. So this is our 3D mask now. So this is the picture I just got this morning was published by China. So this is the China ward for coronavirus. So I think if you, unfortunately, this become very pandemic, my mask may be very useful. So thank you for your attention.